Welcome to This Is Baseball. I'm Brandon Johnson, and we're talking postseason. We covered the wild card last week. We're currently in the middle of the division series between the American League teams and the National League teams. But before we get into that, let's kind of take a look back at the wild card series. So, for starters, all four matchups were sweeps outside of the Brewers and Mets. Brewers were the home team. They were the one division winner actually competing in the wild card round, and they ended up losing to the Mets in 3 games. The Mets came back in game 3 and won in the 9th inning due to a Pete Alonso 3-run home run. So Mets coming off of a doubleheader against Atlanta on Monday before the wild card series, able to overcome that and beat Milwaukee in 3 to move on to play the Philadelphia Phillies. And sticking with the National League, the Braves went on the road to San Diego. San Diego being the top wild card team in the National League, and honestly, a team that has a pretty good shot of actually getting and winning the World Series. They swept the Braves. The Braves kind of, had a lot of injuries down the stretch. Unfortunate situation with Chris Sale actually going into Monday, where the Monday doubleheader, that is, before the postseason, with Chris Sale was scratched with back spasms and wasn't able to pitch, and then wasn't on the wild card series roster, and the Braves got swept by a better Padres team. So Braves, for the third time in 3 years, have not won a playoff series. Over in the American League, the Detroit Tigers swept the Astros, ending the Astros' quest for their 8th straight American League Championship Series. So the kind of dynastic run that the Astros were on will come to an end this season. And again, not really surprising, just because I think Detroit is the hottest team in baseball coming into the postseason. So they're kind of riding that momentum into the playoffs and beat a Houston team that really didn't have much to play for the last week plus of the season. So Detroit continued to stay hot and is playing Cleveland in the division series. Now let's go with Baltimore and Kansas City. Baltimore hosts KC. Kansas City won that one 2-0 as well. So like I said, 3 sweeps out of 4 series. And the Royals did it on the back of pitching. In fact, the Royals actually only scored 3 runs in 2 games. Now, typically, if you score 3 runs over 18 innings, that means that you are going home. But a 1-0 shutout in Game 1 and a 2-1 victory in Game 2. And the only run that they gave up was a solo shot in the 5th inning of Game 2 off the bat of Cedric Mullins. So Royals get to head to New York and renew an old rivalry with the New York Yankees. Now, like I said, we're currently in the middle of the division series as I record this episode. In fact, every series is tied 1-1, which has never actually happened in the history of the division series. So we're seeing something that we've never seen before, and I think, at least so far, MLB is getting exactly what they want out of the division series. I think they want them to go 4 or 5 games in each series, and we have some good matchups. In the American League side, we have a division matchup, AL Central matchup, Cleveland and Detroit. Like I already said, old rivalry renewed between New York and Kansas City. And then division matchup, Padres-Dodgers, and then Phillies-Mets as well. So a lot of good baseball, fun baseball being played already. Cleveland in game one coming out big in the first inning against Detroit. That was really all they needed. And then Detroit in game two hitting a big 3-run bomb in the ninth inning to even that series. Over Phillies Mets, Zach Wheeler dealt for 7+ innings in game one, and then the bullpen just kind of couldn't get it done. And then some late inning heroics in game two for the Phillies to even that series. Now, the Dodgers and Padres, game one, game two, Manny Machado hits a 3-run home run in game one, and then Shohei Ohtani, of course, who else, answers with a 3-run home run of his own. And Dodgers took game one there, and then Padres took game two, and they blew out the Dodgers in that game. And now every series is flipped to the other team's ballpark, so travel days going on, and then games 3 and 4 are played at the opposite ballparks that games 1 and 2 were played at. Now I was looking at this, and let's talk National League for a second. So I think the team that really has nothing to lose here that's left in the playoffs, at least on the National League side, is the Mets. I've said it multiple times this season that the Mets really, weren't supposed to be here, but they are here, and they're actually being competitive and playing good, fun baseball, and kind of a team that honestly is easy to root for. They're playing a Phillies team that has a lot of pressure on their back. Obviously, they lost the World Series 2 years ago against the Astros. They went to the NLCS last year. They're a team that is trying to get to that World Series and win their first World Series since 2008. And they have a lot of star power and a high payroll, so they're kind of one of the teams, along with the Dodgers, that have a lot of expectations to win. The Dodgers, though, I don't think have as much pressure because they did win a World Series in the last 4 years and are really just in the first season of Shohei Ohtani, so they feel like they have a lot of years left of competitive baseball. But they face a tough Padres team. They face a Padres team with a really tough pitching rotation, and then a lot of young talent in their lineup as well. But over in the American League, I mean, in my opinion, there's 3 teams here that really have nothing to lose. I think all 3 Central teams, the Guardians, Tigers, and Royals, I think all 3 of them have the least pressure on them. I think probably Cleveland has the most out of anyone because they had the best year. They won the division, and they ended up winning it by a large margin, even though early September the Royals did catch them and tie them. But the Guardians are playing a Tigers team that, again, like we all know, the Tigers' journey over the last 6 weeks. They were 10 games back at the beginning of August and went on this big run. They're playing really well. And, for a team like Cleveland that was expected to be here, Detroit wasn't. Detroit really is just everything they do at this point, like they've already kind of overachieved and exceeded expectations. So they really just need to go out there and play the Detroit Tigers baseball that they've been playing over the last 6 weeks. And you could say the same thing with the Royals. They really got nothing to lose as well because, again, last year they lost 106 games. And the idea this year was like, let's just be competitive. Like, let us keep paying attention to you as fans into September. And they make the playoffs. They've already won a playoff series, and now they're competing with the Yankees. The Yankees, I think, have the most pressure out of anybody here. They have the likely MVP. They have Aaron Judge, who's going to win MVP. Juan Soto is probably going to take third in MVP voting. So they have 2 of the best players in the league on their roster, but unfortunately, they just kind of go silent. And Aaron Judge has not gotten a hit yet in this series. He's just been striking out a lot and really being a non-factor. I think the Royals pitching staff has handled him remarkably well. They've mostly handled Juan Soto too. But this is the time to shine for the New York Yankees because their big Achilles heel over the last 6-7 years has been the Houston Astros. They can't get past the Houston Astros in the American League Championship Series. Well, Houston got eliminated by Detroit. So this is really like New York needs to win. If anybody needs to win a World Series this year or get to the World Series, it's the Yankees. They have no reason not to. They're the best team. Like I said, highest payroll, best player in the American League. I almost said in the world, but Shohei Ohtani plays in this postseason as well. But they're the team that's expected to win. None of the other three teams remaining in the American League really have much expectations. So, but I do think I think the Royals have all the momentum right now. Now, in Game 1, they lost 6-5. They were competitive. They had 8 walks, and obviously you're not going to win many games when you walk 8 batters. They also got screwed over by some replay review with Jazz Chisholm clearly being out, trying to steal second, and then Alex Verdugo driving him in a batter later. But, again, back to the 8 walks. Don't walk 8 batters. And don't walk. In 2 of those walks, they walked in runs. So, it can't all fall on the replay review on the Jazz Chisholm steal, but it's definitely a factor there. But the Royals this series have been competitive with unlikely bats. Bobby Witt Jr. has basically done nothing. He's hitless through 2 games of the series. So you've relied on players like Garrett Hampson, and Salvador Perez hit a big home run yesterday, and just Kyle Isbell got a hit. Maikel Garcia went 4 for 4. So you're having players do things that, obviously you want them to produce, but the players that you're expecting to really haven't done much yet. Vinny Pasquantino hasn't done anything really either. But that's kind of how the 14-15 run was as well. You had players like Christian Colon. He had 2 huge hits in 14 and 15. So you're going to have that unlikely hero, and Garrett Hampson has had 2 huge hits already this postseason. In this series. And Garrett Hampson was a player that really nobody wanted. And honestly, the Royals-Yankees series has been a lot of fun because, again, it's kind of an old rivalry renewed, but there's also been some intensity. You have, Juan Soto staring down Cole Reagans, and Cole Reagans staring him right back down all the way back to the dugout. You have Carlos Rodon being way too fired up in the first inning, sticking his tongue out, just doing a lot of weird things. Salvador Perez hitting a home run and sticking his tongue out, just kind of giving it right back to him. Salvador Perez is hitting like 500 off Carlos Rodon in his career, so that matchup heavily favors Salvi, and he got him again yesterday and really kind of opened up the scoring for the Royals. Jazz Chisholm in the postseason press conference yesterday said that the Royals got lucky, and Maikel Garcia has already answered that on Twitter, kind of responding there. I'll let you go look that up if you want to. But if there's one thing I know about Kansas City sports teams, and this is really a reference to the Kansas City Chiefs, is you don't want to give a Kansas City sports team bulletin board material because they will remember it and they will use it against you. They will use it as motivation to beat you the next time that they see you. So I actually, and this could be a little bit of homer in me, but I like the Royals in this series. It's, you split on the road in games 1 and 2. That's really the best you can ask for outside of sweeping on the road, but you get to come back home for game 3 and 4 with a fan base that hasn't seen postseason baseball in 10 years. So I think Kauffman Stadium is going to be crazy in games 3 and 4. I'll be out there for game 3 to be part of the festivities. So looking forward to that. I was fortunate enough to go to 4 games in the 14 and 15 run. So excited to be back and be in that atmosphere because Kauffman Stadium in the postseason is truly a unique experience and one of the best experiences I've, ever really had in my life. I was at the wild card game, and Salvi's walk-off was really the loudest I had ever heard any stadium ever, and that's with Arrowhead Stadium sitting next to it. But then 1 year later, when Alex Gordon hits a game-tying home run in the bottom of the 9th in Game 1 of the World Series, that stadium was louder than the wild card. So Kauffman can really be a home field advantage with a crowd that's into the game, and I expect that to happen with just kind of the old hatred of the Yankees and Jazz Chisholm's comments after game 2. I think that fans are going to be fired up about that. You might see them boo Jazz Chisholm. That could be just fun and add a little bit more juice to what's already been a fun series. That is all I have this week for This Is Baseball. Next week we'll be covering the league championship series already. So looking forward to that. But before that, we've got some series that need to wrap up that have all been a lot of fun already, and hopefully they all go the distance outside of the Royals. I hope that they just win in 4 and move on. But I'll see you next week.